All right, what's up, guys? How we doing? I just saw Werewolves. Now let's discuss. So basically, we have a rare supermoon that occurred 1 year before this movie takes place, and it caused billions of people to transform into werewolves. And now it's 1 year later, and we have the same supermoon returning for one night, and we have two scientists who try to stop the mutation and save billions of lives. And this movie is directed by Stephen C. Miller, written by Matthew Kennedy, and starring Frank Grillo. So we have here another independent horror film to add to 2024. You know, we've had plenty of them. And there's another werewolf movie coming out, Wolfman, in January. So this one kind of flew under the radar for me for a little bit. I honestly never saw a trailer for it. I just saw a little bit of buzz for it on Twitter. So I decided to check this one out, and I'm not disappointed necessarily. You know, this movie is clearly super low budget. And, you know, I think they actually do a pretty good job, you know, with the budget that they have. I think they're able to do a decent amount. You know, this movie is cheesy, it's campy, it's kind of that 80s B-movie style, and it's honestly, it's a lot of fun. So we're following our main protagonist named Wesley, played by Frank Grillo, and his brother's family. You know, 1 year ago when the other supermoon happened, his brother died. I believe he was a cop or something, some sort of, you know, first responder, and he was killed. So once again, a year later, the same moon is coming back, and he has to protect his family, his brother's wife and kid. And he is an ex-veteran, so who else to help protect your family other than this guy? And, you know, in the first act of this movie, there's not really a lot of world building that you would kind of think with a movie like this, where billions of people turn into werewolves and billions of people died a year prior. We're kind of just focused on this little town, mainly just two houses and a little bit around the city, you know, later in the movie. But we're just focused on Wesley and Lucy, played by Ilfinish Hedera, and her daughter Emma, played by Camden Gary. And we're just thrown right in, you know, a couple hours before the sun sets and the supermoon is going to come out. And I wouldn't say that it takes too long for, you know, shit to actually start happening, which is kind of a good thing, kind of a bad for this movie. And, you know, we jump to scientists, you know, people all around the world are curious, you know, is there going to be a cure? You know, there's the CDC trying to come up with a cure for this. So they have these subjects, and they've been working on it for a while, you know, I would assume. And they've come up with this moon screen. And the other main focus of this movie are the scientists who have been trying to come up with a cure for the moon, you know, interacting and affecting our DNA, turning them into werewolves. And they don't really focus on that for long because, as you can imagine, shit goes wrong. But I do think this movie does have, you know, some pretty interesting ideas. You know, the scientists here, they call it moon screen. How clever. But no, it's there's some interesting ideas. You know, there's people who volunteered to be tested for this moon screen. You know, they're trapped in a cage, and these people are fucking crazy, obviously. But the first scene that we get in the CDC lab office, whatever it is, that we find, or that we first see the transformation, you know, that's a pretty cool ass scene. A lot of the effects in this are practical, which is a huge positive. You know, it is, like I said, that 80s kind of B movie style. I don't know exactly what they use. I don't think they were animatronics, but a lot of the werewolves are practical. You know, when they're transforming from the human to the werewolf, it's obviously going to be CGI, but it looks pretty damn good. And the design of the werewolf in this movie is definitely different, I would say, but I think it worked. You know, it was pretty effective. It kind of fits with the style and the tone of this movie, you know, the campiness and just the over the top. And if you're doing any werewolf, you know, adaptation, TV show, movie, whatever it is, if you're going to be using all CGI, I think that's going to completely take away from the effectiveness. And, you know, as always, practical will always win over CGI. And I think the special effects and makeup artists actually did a really good job in this movie, and I really appreciated that. And they also kind of give some of the werewolves kind of like a personality in this movie, which is a little bit different. You know, they stay in their normal or their street clothes or whatever they're wearing when they transform. You know, like there's one werewolf, he's like a gothic werewolf. You know, he's got a rip cut denim jacket. He's got like one earring in and like a bunch of jewels, kind of like a punk rocker look. And that's just one of the examples. There's a few more, but that just adds to the fun that this movie is trying to go for. There's also plenty of one-liners in this movie, a few that actually made me chuckle, you know, just throwing it back to that 80s B movie like I was saying before.
Bite me!
And I think it does all of that very well. This movie knows exactly what it is and what it's trying to be. And you just can't ever hate on that, to be honest. No matter how bad, good the script is, the acting, whatever it is, you just can't hate on it when a movie knows exactly what it's supposed to be. And with this being a rated R werewolf movie, I kind of expected a little bit more kills, especially with the premise and the whole concept. There are a few cool kills, a few awesome ones, which have a decent amount of gore and blood in them, which, I will always love, as you know. But there really was a lot of missed potential that I thought throughout this movie. The second act is kind of boring, but I think this movie kind of struggles with just the fact that they're focusing on basically just two settings. It's Wesley, our main character, and this scientist girl from the CDC. They're trying to make it back to Lucy in his home, where, she's being attacked. And then we're just focusing on Lucy and Emma inside the house. When all those scenes, there's really nothing that goes on. They're just hiding under this little fort in her room. She's walking around the house. There's not really a lot that goes on. She's watching cameras, and we're just kind of going back and forth. It's also weird editing. The pacing is kind of off a little bit, I would say, especially in the middle part of this movie. And Lucy almost made such a dumb decision about halfway through this movie, but something saves that decision, and you're just like, okay, thank God she didn't do this. But she does plenty more throughout this movie, where you're just like rolling your eyes and you're just like, what the fuck, man? And I think if you focus more on the outbreak and, all the things, all the possibilities that there are with a worldwide outbreak. I know it is a year later, so there are a lot of preparation for this. So most of the people are hiding in their houses or underground or wherever. So there's not as many people being turned. But I think focusing more on the werewolves going throughout the city and more of the kills and just all the mayhem that something like this can cause, even if the people are prepared for it. So, maybe there is another movie out there somewhere where we do get to see a year prior when the actual bigger outbreak happened with billions of people dying and billions of people turning. Maybe there's a movie there that maybe I would have liked. Maybe that would have been just a little bit better for me, because I did not give a shit about Lucy. Emma, she actually wasn't bad. She was a cute little girl, but I honestly did not give a shit about either of them. But Wesley, man, I enjoyed him for sure. He was cool as shit. Kind of like Schwarzenegger, Vin Diesel vibes, just a huge man. He's ripped. He's down for all the action, all the action scenes, shooting guns, turrets, machine guns. He's down for it all, but also really cares about his family. And I do think the ending also has just a little bit of missed potential as well. They're hinting at certain things and you're starting to figure it out and you're like, oh, we're in store for something badass. This is going to be sick. And then it happens and it's over within probably 45 seconds. And it just happens way too fast. It's a little bit of a letdown. But I do think overall this movie is still very entertaining and a really good fun time. And I also do wish they kind of explained a little bit more like the werewolf psyche, because at the end you're kind of questioning okay, some of it doesn't make sense because are they conscious? Are they not conscious? Do they still have their same mind from when they were human? Because there's certain things that kind of point towards that and then it contradicts. So I just wish there was maybe just, a little bit more of an explanation. But I will say you don't have to necessarily see this in the theaters. I think you can definitely wait to stream it. If you want to support these indie low budget horror movies that are usually pretty good, especially in 2024, I would go out and see this, kind of support that. But yeah, overall, guys, this is really a fun and entertaining movie, especially if you're into that, creature feature type movies. The cheese, the camp, the 80s B-movie style tone that this movie goes for, it's all there. If you like that stuff, you're probably going to enjoy this movie and just, laugh, have a smile on your face, enjoying what you're watching. The practical effects are amazing, the style, the design of the werewolves. It's all great. It's all super cool. Once again, though, I do think there's a movie out there that focuses on the year prior, the first year when this supermoon happens and billions of people turn, billions of people die. I think that setting would give the boost that this movie needed. So I'm going to give this movie a solid 6.7 out of 10. But yeah, those are just my thoughts, guys. I appreciate you watching. Like, subscribe, comment, do whatever you want. Let me know your thoughts. But as always, my name is Zach, and I will see you on the next one.